There are many dramatic moments that take place as we're introduced to Avram Avinu in our parsha and Parshas Lech Lecha. And one of them, which is a very sad moment, is ultimately the time when Avram and Lot separate from each other. What transpired? What caused that separation? So Rashi explains to us that the shepherds of Lot were allowing their flock to graze in areas that was really stolen property, and the shepherds of Avram said, you can't do that, and the battle ensued, and that was it for Avram. And the question that we really need to understand is, why couldn't Avram just teach Lot some values, some morals, some ethics, and say to him, look, you can't have your flock go and pasture in areas that don't belong to you. How could you do that? That's stealing. Why wasn't he able to have an impact on his nephew? That's the real question. So Avram's nephew Lot was with him from the very beginning. When Hashem tells Avram to leave Haran and go in the direction of Eretz Yisrael, Lot was with him. And Lot seems to be there all the time until this event takes place. So why didn't he learn? And why couldn't Avram inspire him? So the Baal HaTurim tells us the following, based on the pasuk, in which the Torah describes the separation between Avram and Lot. Vayisa Lot mikedem, that Lot goes mikedem, vayifrdu Ishmael achiv, they separate. Avram yasha be'eretz Canaan, Avram goes to the land of Canaan, and Lot goes in the direction of stone. And the Baal HaTurim says, if you take the 4 words, Ishmael achiv Avram, and you take the last letter of each of those words, the last letter of those words spell the word shalom. Shalom meaning peace. And the Baal HaTurim is trying to teach us that there are times that the only way to attain peace is to have separation. Avram, finally, when it came to this disagreement, that quarrel that takes place between the shepherds, Avram says, that's it. There's nothing I could do. I need to separate. So why couldn't he inspire him? Why couldn't he change Lot? And I think the answer is because in life, there are people who can't get out of their own way. There are people who can't see anything beyond themselves. They can't see anyone else's opinion. They can't see what's the difference between right and wrong. And their values are very much clouded. And Avram, all of this time, had tried to inspire Lot, had tried to teach Lot the values that he had instilled in the members of his family and all those who came to the house of Avram. But he saw that Lot just wasn't getting it. And all those associated with Lot just were not getting it. And finally it came to a place where Avram saw that the very fabric of the value system that he believed in and that he and Sarah had really tried to influence on all of those who were connected to them, that fabric was being threatened by Lot's not only presence, but by Lot pushing his value system upon everyone else. And at that point, Avram says, I need to preserve. I need to preserve that which is sacred, that which is valuable and holy to me, the ideals that Avram believed in, most notably the idea of monotheism, and the concept, that which goes with monotheism, of following the laws and the morals of what it means to be a person who contributes, and not only contributes, but follows the basic rules and tenets of society. And so when the pasuk says that Avram separated from Lot, it certainly wasn't because Avram didn't try to help Lot and to speak to him. It was that Lot presented himself as someone who was not able to accept the help. I think it's an important lesson for us. Sometimes we really drive ourselves crazy in trying to explain the right thing to certain people and trying to point something out to people when we're worried that they're going to have a bad influence on those who we care about, those who we love. And yet we find ourselves still, even sometimes when they're family members, we find ourselves in this impossible position of, how do I say something if this person is really making me feel uncomfortable? And so what we end up doing is we end up dancing instead of telling the person how we really feel. And it's a very uncomfortable position. The Baal HaTurim tells us that sometimes, in order to have true shalom, in order to have true peace, that we have to have our boundary. We have to make that separation. And in doing so, perhaps then the individual that we're speaking about will be able to be shaken up and see what's really transpiring, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to see beyond themselves. So we should be zocha, we should merit in life that we strive to find peace, but we have to make sure that peace does not come at all costs. It doesn't come at the cost of ruining our own sense of values, certainly the Torah's values, and it doesn't come at the cost of ruining ourselves and our families. So may we be zoche to find true peace, true shalom in life as best as we possibly can. Thank you for listening, and have a good Shabbos.